Hello and good morning, world. This is Terrell Thomas, and today I have a subject matter that I like to speak on. And the title of my subject today is I want to be a police officer. Now, before I get started, I just want to share with everyone that those of you all who do pray to the Almighty God, the one in whom, if you know me, you know who I serve. I am planning to put together a podcast, video cast, and the title of my podcast would be Till Now. Anybody who knows me know I love acronyms. Till, T-I-L, now. Truth in love now. That is what I'm preparing to put out, and if somebody can help me put this together who is very astute with this technology world and know how to, because I want it to be nice and I want it to be well, and the subject matters will be on point because it comes from my heart, and more importantly, it comes from what God has put in my heart. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I just have not put it all together, not necessarily out of fear, just time, distractions, and things. But nevertheless, this may be a launching pad for that. So, truth and love now. Today's subject. I want to become a police officer. I remember back when I was a little boy. I'll tell you what police officers meant to me. I loved the police. It was first grade, second grade. The school I went to, I'll name the school, was Bradwell Elementary School in Chicago, Illinois. And we had a day when the police officer, who eventually at the end of the day got a new name, but he came in to share with us little minds, us little people, about police officers. He brought in coloring books and crayons for us all to share and to be able to color and see what police officers do on a daily basis. And I got excited about it. I don't know why the Lord has put this in my heart, but I've always loved helping people. And I love people. I can't take any claim to fame for it. It's just something that God put in me innately. I love people. And anybody else who knows me know I love talking. And so I'm listening to this man and watching him with this uniform and standing strong and letting me know that a police officer's job is to serve and protect. That astounded me. It was beautiful to hear and to see as a little kid. And he began to go through showing pictures in the book where you have police officers pulling cats out of trees. You see police officers reaching in, helping ladies with their groceries. We saw police officers helping people fix the tires on their cars. And that fascinated me. I wanted to be a police officer. And the new name that police officer came into my little mind was Officer Friendly. Anybody heard of that guy? Officer Friendly was a hero in my neighborhood. Officer Friendly was the one who, if I ran into trouble, this is the person who I would go to, would be Officer Friendly. Even though there were many people in my community who I love, my neighbors and things of that nature, but if I got in trouble, if there was anything wrong, I went to Officer Friendly. Fast forward, about 10 years old, my sister and I used to go to this Spanish class downtown. I was about 9 years old, and I only knew one way to go. I'd get on the bus, go to 79th Street, walk over to 79th Street, go over to the L train, catch the L train at 79th and State, go downtown to wherever that was, where the school was, stop off at that stop, go into the school, enjoy a day of Spanish, come back to the same place on 79th Street and go home. That was the routine. That was what we did. That's how we went. And my sister and I, she was the oldest, and I got into class as it was something that she was a part of, and I got a chance to go in with her. And my sister loved me a lot, and she would take me to different places when she needed me, when she wanted to, but also out of the goodness of her heart. And so we would travel this way all the time. But now, every now and then, you know how big sisters are, they can get on the nerves of the little brother. And my sister tended to do that at different points in times. And one particular day, my sister made me mad. And we always traveled together. We traveled in the same car. That's the car that's, or the L train, that is, the train car. And this particular day, she made me mad. And so I went into a different car. Well, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I heard somebody yelling, "End of the line, end of the line." I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what end of the line meant. I had no clue what end of the line represented. And there was this conductor that came and knocking and banging on the windows and doors, and he tapped me. He said, "Hey, young fella, you gotta get off. You're at the end of the line." I said, "What's the end of the line?" He said, "This is where the train stops." End up being that I found out later on, I was at 95th and the Dan Ryan. I'd never been down there. I'd never been at that part. Now, I knew where I lived. I knew my address. I knew my phone numbers. I knew all of that. I was taught that as a little boy. I learned that very early on. But remember, I only knew one way there, one way back. That's the only way I traveled on public transportation. So remember, little boy had in class, Officer Friendly came to my school. Officer Friendly, that's the one I can call. So I rushed to, and many of y'all don't know anything about phone booths. Many of y'all don't know about public telephones. So I had my little quarter. As a matter of fact, I had a dime. It cost 10 cents to make this phone call. And so I got to the phone, called the police, Officer Friendly, to come to the rescue to help me get home, because I did not know where I was or how to get home. And so the person on the phone said, "Well, if we gave you some money, could you go home?" I said, "No, you need to come get me. I do not know where I am." And they sent a squad car, and the squad car tried to give me some money to make it home. I said, "No, you have to take me home. I do not know how to get home from here." "Do you know your address?" "Yes, I do." I gave them my address, and they drove me home. Another great depiction of Officer Friendly at work. So you can imagine, as continue to grow, continue to learn, times begin to change. And even my world began to enter into other dimensions, other places, other facets. And Officer Friendly turned into something different. Officer Friendly turned into something that was horrific. But yet, I still had hope. Had so much hope that in the 80s, the late 80s, I attempted to become Officer Friendly. Went to take the test, passed it with flying colors. But there was one portion of the test that I believe was made to separate, to weed out black folks. I normally wouldn't say this until I began to get a little history, began to get a little learning, and I know several officers, and they will attest to this, that the police force, in order to weed out the black male from entering into the force, they would give them something called a psychological. Remember, I passed the test with flying colors. The intellectual aspect of this was very simple, it was very clear. I knew what I wanted to be in society. I knew how I can help people, because I knew I love people. And I remember Officer Friendly. And I wanted to do what Officer Friendly does. And so I went to take this test, and after passing everything with flying colors and being able to physically handle the job, they put me in a room with a white man who was to give me a psychological exam. The psychological exam was made up of questions that I had taken the test almost a year ago, when they brought me back in and began to ask me questions concerning the answers that I gave way back almost a year ago. Now, by the grace of God, I remembered most of the questions, so it was real easy to regurgitate back and to give him some responses to that. And so he began to ask me Questions like, if you caught your mother stealing, would you arrest her? Anybody out there know Marie Isabella Thomas? Some of y'all might not know that name. Let me clarify. That's my mother. Anybody know my mother? I attempt to arrest, hold, detain my mother. That's my head on the line. That ain't happening. Any black man out there know, you don't mess with mama. I don't care what mama did. Mama can be on crack cocaine. You ain't messing with mama. That's crazy. That's asinine. But this white man asked me that question. And the question that I responded was, no, I would not arrest my mother. They asked me some other dumb questions. How many beers do you drink when you go out? I didn't drink beer. But there was not an option for me to say none. It was 1, 3, 8. There was never an answer that it could be none. And several questions went on like this, and some of them they repeated them and things of that nature. Nevertheless, I failed the psychological exam according to their measures. I was puzzled by this. I was puzzled. How could I conceivably fail such a thing? It was simple. It was clear. It was concise. So I thought, until I found out it was rigged. Now, some of my fellow black officers, as I spoke to them, and they taught me how to pass that test. They learned the system and how to circum that test. And basically, in order to pass that test, you have to lie. You have to tell an untruth. You have to falsify your beliefs and what you stand for in order to pass that psychological exam. You can imagine how that hurt me in my heart, but nevertheless, I went on with my life and continued to live. And I've had some episodes, some course run-in with the police officers, nothing of any devastating magnitude. I've been blessed most of my life, all of my life. Let me say all of my life. I have been a blessed man of God. The Lord has blessed me to have 2 beautiful parents, to live in a loving home, to live in an environment where I had a father who worked hard, a mother who worked very diligently. And they worked diligently to provide for their family and to provide a nice way of living for us. But I'm still black in America. And even though I did not I wasn't scrutinized to the standpoint of how some of my fellow black males have been. I haven't been beat down. I haven't been coursed down like some have. But nevertheless, I not only empathize, but I sympathize as well. Because I understand. I know the psychological things that I've been through, but by the grace of God, I've been able to overcome those things. So Officer Friendly has changed. He lost his way. Officer Friendly went through a metamorphosis. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. All I know is it did happen. The culture changed. Because another wonderful episode that I have had concerning Officer Friendly was when I worked at a store that we owned on 75th and Yates. And my auntie, beautiful woman, got a little nervous because there were a bunch of teenagers that were hanging on the corner and they didn't look like they were into anything good. Now, they weren't tearing up anything at this particular time, but for some reason, the gathering of teenagers with nothing to do makes older people nervous. And so we used to have an officer that would patrol the neighborhood on foot. Yes. Somebody ever heard of foot patrolman? That happened in our neighborhood. The beautiful thing about this officer, he was an older officer, very mature, very serene, very calm man. And so he would periodically come in the store and just check on, hey, how things are going. And my auntie said, you know what? Those young men over there trouble me. He said, they bothering you? She said, could you talk to them? He said, sure. I don't know what he said, but I watched this officer. I watched him go across the street. I didn't see his face change as far as getting angry, teed off, argumentative, judgmental, or anything. Now, I don't know what he said to those young men, All I know is he didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't point his finger. He spoke some words to those young men. Never again did I see them on that corner. I've watched videos of Current. I've watched videos of officers antagonize, poke, prod, very angrily speak at black males who have been cordial to them, who have spoken very articulate, very appropriately, very respectfully, and have been beat down by my used to be Officer Friendly. And I'm discouraged right now. I'm very angry and I'm very perturbed by all of the incidences that I have been seeing now, because I know it's better. It can be better. I know it has been better. I know that it didn't start this way. And I know the origin of those who wear that badge and that uniform, and on their vehicles it says serve and protect. I don't know when service turned to the detriment of hurt and pain. I don't know when protect went to the aspect of tearing down and beating down. I don't know when that changed. All I know is it has. And all I know is it does not have to be. So I'm speaking to the officers today. I'm speaking to the police officers. I'm speaking to the ones who are complicit in their operations and duties and are watching their fellow compadres and fellow officers heinously hurt other human beings of the black hue, tearing them from their families, tearing them from their wives, tearing them from their children, their nieces and nephews, tearing them from life because of the hue of their skin. I'm very discouraged. I'm very disheartened by this. And I hope that you change the culture of what's happening in our law enforcement system. I hope that you become the revolutionary. You, Officer Friendly, go back to your creed of what you were called to do, to serve your community, to protect your community, of every person that's in your community. Get out of your cars and help somebody. Give that young black man a hand up instead of a pistol with bullets flowing out in his back, in his head, in his heart. Put your weapons down. Open your mouths and talk. Speak clearly. Speak honestly. Speak with uprightness. Speak encouragement. We're going through enough in the school systems, on the job market. We're going through enough of being called deadbeat dads, no good Negroes. That's what we hear. I know where we started in this country. Started out with beheading the black family. Not a literal beheading, but a beheading of the black male that was the head of his family. The dismantling of him being removed from his headship to destroy the body, raping his wife, raping his daughters before his very eyes, to make him shameful, to make him powerless where he used to be powerful. He was the king of his castle. He was honored and revered by his wife and children. Slavery came along and dismantled that. They beheaded the black man. And now, Officer Friendly, you're trying to behead him as well. Stop it. Nobody's taking anything from you, white man. We encourage you to be good fathers, to be good husbands, to be good uncles, to be good cousins to your family. Let us be to our family. Because I give you a hand up. If I saw you down, I pick you up. As a matter of fact, when I see you down, I pick you up. I present you before my God in prayer. White man, black man, Native American man, I lift you up. I protect you through my prayers. Now I'm asking you, protect me. Protect this black man that I'm using in a generic sense, meaning all of black men. Preserve our heritage because we are men. Extend your hand. To help me to continue a legacy of life that all may see and come to understand. I once too wanted to be officer friendly. God deemed it not to be that way. I don't know the answer to the why, because I pursued it. I even pursued being a state police officer. God would have it not to be so. But I want you to know from me and from most black men who have the same understanding that I have, I love the police. But you're misguided. You've lost your way. You're off track. And those who are on track, bring your brothers on track. Bring them on board to the way it should be. Be the example of what Officer Friendly is, who he is. You don't need a gun for us. You don't even need a baton. Speak to me. Talk to me. I got a brain, I got a mind, I got sense. And every black man has sense, everyone. Because we've been trained from a child up. Respect your elders. Respect those in law and those who are in authority. We've been learning that since a little boy. God has given us life and privilege. God has given us our breath. And for you to take it away, you're violating God. Come on back, Officer Friendly. Come on back. Be what you were called to be in the community, that we may revere you once again, that we may respect you once again, that we will run to you for help, because no longer do we run to you for help. We run from you because we feel that fear of life leaving our bodies at your disposal. We are men just like you. Respect us. Talk to us. Speak kindly to us. And leave us alone. I will say one more thing that I want to share. Because one thing I do know is we don't want no problems. Yeah, there's some people who do some errant bad things for whatever reason that they do. And that's not a black issue. That's a people issue. It's not deemed on one race or one sex. Its humanity is corrupt. Sin entered to the world and brought this corruption. Sin entered in and put us in this predicament. But God has put in love to counter that, to overrule that, to bring that into submission if we love one another. And that's my call to you. Love. Love us. Love us to life. Because it's not a competition. I don't want what you want, except the one thing that you want to have every day. I want one thing of you, white man. One thing. Is to keep the breath that God gave me so that I can keep on living, keep on sharing, keep on giving, keep on participating in the beauty of what God is trying to make here through love, through compassion. Because I guarantee you, if you operate from the premise of not operating from the letter of the law, but extending your hearts and your mind to the spirit of the law, that you may come across life yielded to somebody. I'll share this last story as I begin to close. I heard a story of an encounter with a police officer that was encountering a situation with a veteran. This veteran, who happened to be a white man, was preparing food for those in a particular community, in a particular forest area, where according to their rules and the law, you were not supposed to be doing that type of cooking out there. And they understood that, but what was he trying to do? He was helping the community. He was helping the downtrodden. This man was there helping somebody. And this police officer, by law, by the letter of the law, could have arrested, possibly incarcerated, convicted this man of the crime of whatever that law was there. But guess what this officer did? This was the, my officer friendly happened to be on the scene. He looked at the letter of the law, explained the letter of the law to this man, who, when the officer addressed him, he politely and kindly put both of his hands behind his back. I guess giving the appearance to the officer of a position of surrender. The officer says, "Sir, I just want to let you know, this is not permissible, but I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm about to get off my shift in about 4 hours. I'm going to ask you not to be here. And there's going to be another shift that comes in, and they might not be as I am. So I'm going to come back. And as long as you're gone, this situation is resolved." And the officer walked away. That day, that officer lived. He lived because he operated from the spirit of the law, gave compassion to this man. And what he did not know was that man was not reaching behind his back for submission to show that the officer that he was in compliance. But he had a weapon that was in his back, and he was about to pull it out. If that officer had approached him, he was going to shoot him dead. That officer is living today. Does not even know this right now, what I'm sharing with you. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, operate with compassion. Every law that is given is for order, for correction, for reproof. But there's also a spirit of the law that if you operate with compassion and love, you'll find, as my grandmama used to say, you'll get more from, I think, honey or sugar than you will from vinegar. Give a spoonful of sugar. It helps the medicine go down. I too wanted to be a police officer.